This week on the Rental Report Review. He came to fuck the dead back to life. LA Zombie, 2010. He's a good cop, on a big bike, on a bad road. Electra Glide in Blue, 1973. Terror Beyond Belief, Tenebre, 1982. A Woman of Today, Her World, Her Passions. A Woman Under the Influence, 1974. It's 4 years later. What does she remember? Exorcist 2, The Heretic, 1977. I love LA movies. LA is a strange place. I was born in its periphery, grew up in its eastern suburbs. It's been a big scary place, a sprawling place, a shallow place. And as I've decided to actually learn more about it in my middle age, I've come to appreciate it, reappreciate it, love it, respect it. Call it what you want, this is a strange vortex where strange forces can come together and create something strangely magical. LA can definitely be defined by a certain bimbo bro, service industry drone, social climbing cipher. There are all manner of metaphor and parody at the ready for a zombie narrative. But LaBruce and his collaborators went back to a sort of earlier instantiation of zombie as involved in ritual, in mystery traditions, as being from the fringe, the border of consciousness, unconsciousness, permanently existing between categories, all categories, certainly existing between life and death itself. It seems that here LaBruce is suggesting that good things, pleasurable things, can be found in engaging with the mystical, uncategorizable. There is a bit of an issue of consent. I give LA Zombie 2010 3.5 stars. I guess it gets a little repetitive. Is he gonna fuck this guy back to life too? Oh yes. Yes he is. On the pluses, if your story is a zombie that fucks people back to life, I want to see that fucking. I want to see that mystical dick. Or at least you better have clever ways around it, but there is something surely undeniable about the clarity of the embodied metaphor when you see the demon dick dealing not death, but life. I don't know if I can recommend it. If it did a little more to evolve and challenge its concept, I don't know. It's also not fully sex romp or porny porn. It sits in the middle of a bunch of things. My common complaint. I mean, not that you have to. I do want to see more LaBruce. I want to see what he's about. It certainly helps that Francois Sagat is captivating in every form he takes, across the forms he takes, in total. And he gives a performance with zero apparent fear. I don't know how much of that is performance versus sociopathic star power. I can't say that I've seen much more of him, maybe in a thumbnail or two. Either way, he has quite the confidently curious gaze of a predator with prey, despite his arguably magnanimous behavior. I especially plus this for the spirit of just getting out there and fucking doing it, but maybe not for everyone. I love a good morning routine start to a movie. Especially when it's shot cool. Especially when it turns into something critical to the plot. A Rube Goldberg is a good, solid number 2 morning routine, but the character revealing sequence of inserts that transforms into full-out critical narrative? I'm in. Conrad Hall. Up until I saw his name in the opening credits, I totally forgot he was part of why this was on my watch list. The look stood out from the beginning. This is the Conrad Hall I love the most and will probably be a reference point for me from here on out. It's a masterclass in exterior day, 2/4 composition, and narrative motion, character focus. That's the thing, the postmodern American new wave cinema had some great collaborators, incredible artisans looking to flex every muscle, thread every needle, and challenge every preconception. And as heavy-handed and as layered or failed as they could be, they were almost always some of the most gorgeous films ever made. And they were actively communicating through every facet of the apparatus. Until the Exorcist just pissed that off.
Did you know that me and Alan Ladd were exactly the same height?
What I love most about this film is a swing at attempting to redefine, recontextualize the just sheriff. In a world we know, and really knew in 73, well, I assume I wasn't there, is every bit as complicated as it was when the West was being, well, cleansed. See, this is why I never allowed myself to enjoy Westerns. Anyway, focus on mythology.
I'm going to talk to you this morning about self-control.
This is a great, if flawed, dark, tragic comedy about justice, street-level justice in America, and the responsibility we have to others and ourselves, and the trust we have to seek.
A precisely formulated conspiracy of police genocide.
I give Electra Glide in Blue 4 stars.
That's right, the officer in charge is talking to you, and he's saying that you're going to be arrested as an accessory after the fact in a murder case.
I wish it had a better title. I wish it made its characters a little smarter. They're charming as fuck and find their way through interesting arcs. I just think Cormac McCarthy, hot take, gets the middle of the country right in a way that many still look down on, even from unconscious inherited bias. I also wish the case was better. Either more prosaic realism or twist it up and kink it a little more. The ending lands. It did for me anyway. It's probably my favorite Robert Blake, whatever that means. I'm short myself, 5'5", and usually hate short characters. They're usually written by tall hacks. The exceptions prove the rule, maybe, but Blake pulls it off. And that doesn't mean I think one way or another about what happened with him and his wife. I feel I'm making more of a deal about it by saying I'm not making a deal about it, but it entered my mind. Why is Hollywood filled with such complicated people? Okay, so I almost hated this movie right up until the last 10 minutes. I didn't hate it, but I was getting so very disappointed.
Filthy, slimy
Dario Argento, I've seen a few of his major masterworks. I thought I had seen more before I looked it up, but I felt like I had started to get a handle on the lyrical aesthetic maximalist. I wouldn't say I was wrong, but I wasn't ready for big scare quotes here. Semi-standard, meandering giallo. Again, there's a very effective fulcrum in the latter half, but I know I've droned elsewhere that the original Italian subgenre of semi-mystical, pseudo-psychological stalking slashers don't entirely work for me, or I can't quite come to them.
Not anxiety or fear, but freedom. You wrote those words, page 46. Freedom to strike again.
Listen, don't hang up.
There's a layer of frivolity and, yeah, that'll work. Fast and loose character narrative construction that, I don't know, isn't sustained for me by machismo, violent strippings, and gore. Even the ones I love have something that makes me cringe. Like, ew, cringe. Talking about you, Duck Voice. I don't think Tenebre is parody, or satire, or whatever the difference is between those. It does feel, by the end, Jesus Cristo, that Argento is telling his horror thriller friends to hold his beer. He circumnavigates every giallo genre trope and secretly, dastardly, edges toward the delayed climax. I would say spoilers, but that is peak Argento to some extent, right? I'll just say that the juice was worth the squeeze.
Could it be somebody I know?
I give Tenebre 1982 3.9 stars.
I wish I'd never written that book.
I think part of my problem is that I felt so unmoored from any protagonist that when said person finally arose, I was like, Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Something is missing.
It made me realize how unfocused the first half or so or more felt. I would gladly rewatch to see if that changes, especially with an audience, and especially after touring more Argento. I couldn't get Just out of my head, but even if a 2010s or whatever they were band didn't sample part of the soundtrack, I have an immediate immune reaction to repeat themes without variation. I mean, that kept my dumb ass out of the Yakuza Paper series for way too long. I'm gonna get this wrong. Anthony Francoisa brings it home. I felt something broiling in him, wandered willingly with him, wished he went more places, was almost let down, and then I'm trying not to give anything away. He's perfect. I just need to find my way into this genre. For the love of God, how do you shoot this? Everyone talks about cinematographers. I talk about cinematographers, but camera operators? How does no one? Why don't I talk about camera operators? An operator that can actually operate with a wide formalistic technical range. Worth their weight in gold. Ramen diamonds. But to follow a vortex of epiphanies and expletives on the fly like this, they should be household names. We should be trading their cards. Michael Ferris, Gary Graver, David B. Knoll, Michael Stringer, Caleb Daschner. This is some of my favorite camera work, up there with Herzog's Land of Silence and Darkness.
April's not crazy. She's unusual.
Tell me what you want me to be, how you want me to be.
I mean, sound is not easy on this either. If this was boom operated, Jesus fuck. But I mean, know your place. This is motion pictures.
The reason I'm worried is that you've been acting a little strange.
I love this play on opera, expanding the scope of the genre to include the fantastically excited and suppressed and explosive working class is pretty damn inspired, at least the route Cassavetes and all take through the world as they seem to have seen it. Jenna Rollins, not so much playing a woman staggering into breakdown as a woman having enough of the people telling her she's having a breakdown. I mean, isn't that really all of us? It's rightfully terrifying to have systems, archetypes aligned to ensure your failure to live up to some arbitrary socially acceptable standard. I missed every second she was out of a scene, because even if she's off camera but in scene, you can feel her pull and influence. I give A Woman Under the Influence 4.5 stars. I think I only don't give it 5 because there's still something I still can't decode or totally connect with in Cassavetes. I don't even know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's that almost every scene, every major scene, there is one extended moment where I start to wonder when it's going to get to the point or take the turn. And because it's a Cassavetes film, I know he's going to work through every stage to get to the moment he wants. And there's often a moment that the process stalls a little bit, just a little bit. And I think this comes down to slices of life people versus slices of cake people. I know he's capable of it, and I know he'll do it marvelously in linking transitional sequences, but I want to see him let a character pull a ripcord in a major scene, short circuit an expectation, something. Switch it up a little bit. I just don't like actors in charge of things is what I think it is. And the exceptions prove the rule. I like Cassavetes in charge, but my alignment is of a different class or something. I mean, but I'm talking about half a point here. The only thing that can give actors a run for their money in being bad at filmmaking are writers. Writers can ruin a film in ways you can't possibly imagine, in a way that they're proud of. More on that next week. But first.
In 1974, a motion picture shocked the world.
First of all, this is a great teaser. You should go watch this teaser. Linked below. If this movie existed apart from outside the universe of the Exorcist franchise, it would probably be one of the best sci-fi horror films of all time.
A step beyond.
That can't be an original thought. But the fact that it does, I don't know, maybe it still is. Jury is still out in my head on this one. One of the things I love most about the first Exorcist was that it was the earliest religious horror film that I had seen at that point in my youth that took place in our scientific, positive, contemporary world. There were instrument scans and doctors and scientists and a sense and understanding of psychology and mind, and yet it still convinced us, suspended our disbelief that biblical horror could still exist in recesses of the unknown. And this film says, okay, yeah, that part. Let's play with that further. What is the actual entry point of this archetypal evil, this hyper pattern of evil? If this could still be in our real world, how do we explore that? But turn the dial a little more sci-fi, a little more on the parapsychological. It almost feels like it could have been adapted from an Otomo manga or something. When did he write Domu?
4 years ago, The Exorcist shocked the world. Now, the struggle between good and evil goes on.
The layers of consciousness and access through hypnotic regression are not wrong, and the contraption looks fucking cool and sounds even cooler. Is Exorcist 2 The Heretic a 4-star movie? I read that this was Warner Brothers' most expensive film ever. I mean, Warner's is not Fox. I can imagine that being true. And I can still see where the prestige still came from building sets rather than finding locations. Star Wars the same year blows that out of the water, I think. Or at least ups the ante. I think it needed the verisimilitude to contrast the Dreamtime sequences. Richard Burton, perfect, no notes. Is Reagan McNeil an interesting character? They try, but maybe not enough to make the case? Maybe not. When it works, Linda Blair is stellar, and when it doesn't, she and her seem lost. Floating, directionless. Feels like a writing problem. I'm telling you, the movie just needed to wait 1 more year. Just wait for ILM to open up, flesh out Reagan a little more. Give me a studio is what I'm saying.
Linda Blair, Richard Burton, Louise Fletcher, Max von Sydow, James Earl Jones. Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
This week, my weekly pick of the week is... I don't know that it was a tough one this week to pick a winner, but they all well exceeded my anticipations. But one really moved me, made me feel and think and accept. A Woman Under the Influence. It's A Woman Under the Influence. This week's bonus feature is Exorcist 2 The Heretic. It's just so fucking weird, and I can't stop thinking about it. Maybe it is 4 stars. I watch part 3 next week. Actually, I've already watched it. Hot take alert. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Instagram and X to see what movies I'm renting next, and pretty much everything is on my letterbox. I am going to go watch some more movies. I hope you do too. Very well.